You know, when it comes to The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and if it's a sequel or just DLC as some people put it, I think it's a sequel. I mean, it checks all of the boxes of what a sequel is, right? What do you think? Does this look like DLC or a proper sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild? Hey guys, it's Rob here, and welcome back to the Robo-Chan Show, where we take the gaming news format that channels like Spawnwave or Arlo do, add a dash of animation and some cool editing on top to bring you your gaming news, leaks, and rumors in a fresh new way. If you're new here and want to be kept up on everything gaming, make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave a like if you enjoy the video and dislike if not, and have that notification bell on so you know when I upload. In this video, we are going to talk more about the conversation of if Tears of the Kingdom is just DLC or is it a proper sequel, why or why not, and overall have discussion on this just strange and weird situation. If you guys enjoy this video, leave a like, it helps the video reach more viewers when you do, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is RoboRob93. Without further delay, let's get on to the topics. Now keep in mind, we don't have a lot of information on this game other than the current gameplay we have right now, so once we get the game in our hands and play this game, then we can have a better idea on how far this game goes and how it can compare to Breath of the Wild. Just keep that in mind. So The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is a game that I think is gonna be fantastic and a very fun game. I love the fact that we can combine weapons, build cars and vehicles, and overall have so much potential for so many wacky creations. I mean, what is gonna happen when you put meat on an arrow? It's gonna be funny and very interesting. But I think one thing that stood out from the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom recent gameplay showcase was the sameness in some ways when you compare it to Breath of the Wild. If you look at it at face value, both the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild look pretty similar on face value. If you just put it side by side and say, hey, does this look like this game? I'm sure people would say, yeah, it looks pretty similar. Now this has brought up a crowd that calls Tears of the Kingdom just DLC, and on the opposite end, people are saying, no, this looks like a sequel. And I think to give a better idea on this argument on those who are saying, nah, this game looks like a very fun sequel to Breath of the Wild, we need to look at other games that are just widely accepted as a sequel. No doubt, no one in history has called it DLC. And then we can see what boxes do they check, what do they do, and why do people consider it a sequel? And I think the best one that I personally have a lot of time in, I've played all of the Assassin's Creed games, is Assassin's Creed. The fact that these games expand across multiple areas, multiple characters, multiple character models, it's had various upgrades, I think we can look at some of these games and say that, yeah, they're sequels. And the fact there have been so much, I think it's a good idea, especially since some of them take place in the same spot, in the same way that Breath of the Wild takes place in the same spot as Tears of the Kingdom. In my last video, I mentioned two games, Assassin's Creed 1 and Assassin's Creed 2, and I think we can all agree that Assassin's Creed 2 is widely accepted as one of the best sequels of any game on any time in any place and time. Don't know why I said it like that. And it is a sequel to Assassin's Creed. But the more I think about it, the more I think the next Assassin's Creed game would be a better thing to compare to, Assassin's Creed 2 versus Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, because it has more similarities to Tears of the Kingdom. It takes place in the same area, it has a lot of the same gameplay, but it did add some new mechanics, it did add some new things to the open world, but overall, it is pretty similar to Assassin's Creed 2, but people widely accept that as a sequel to Assassin's Creed 2. When you're talking about it, people bring it up as the sequel. I mean, I've never heard someone say, yeah, AC Brotherhood is DLC by now. Another thing I think we have to keep in mind is that we saw such a small portion of the map close up. We did see that overarching area, but close up, we only saw small portions of the map. But Tears of the Kingdom does have new islands, new textures, they have new weapons, and they have new character models for not just Link and Zelda, but other character models as well. And you know what? Not only that, but they completely changed the combat system and made it completely unique to any game that I can think of in recent memory. And another thing I think we have to remember is that it's not just the parts of the open world like the rock in the trailer, but also enemy parts as well, and there are going to be plenty of different things that drop from enemies in Tears of the Kingdom. So not only is this going to provide a new gameplay experience, it's also going to add to the replayability of this game, especially when you're able to make your own crafts. And keep in mind, we only saw a little bit of gameplay. I'm sure there's plenty of other things to find out in Tears of the Kingdom Kingdom once we get the game in our hands. Like the time reversing mechanics that we saw in the previous trailer. How does that interact with the world, and how does that interact with the weapons that we have? Not only that, but how does that interact with the machines that we have? So what boxes is Tears of the Kingdom checking? Well, they're checking new gameplay, new textures, new character models, new areas for us to explore, which means making new parts of the world, so there are new areas to explore, new sound design, new weapons, I think I already said that actually, and there's also characters that we probably don't even know about as well, because remember, this is a sequel, so there's going to be new characters as well, not to mention the animations that they're going to have to do for the new characters as well. So this is all things that sequels and other games have that people say, yeah, this is a sequel. So I think this really does bring up the question, why do some people consider this just DLC? Well, I think it's because it takes place in the same area. I think the sameness of just on the face value, not when you're playing the game where you know about the different mechanics and stuff, but just looking at face value, like a screenshot side by side from Tears of the Kingdom to Breath of the Wild, I think that sameness makes people think, well, this just looks like DLC. And that does make a lot of sense, right? I mean, if it looks the same on face value, that's what you're gonna think. But the fact that they have new character models, they have new weapons, a whole new system, actually 2 systems, because you can build your own things, which is, I still can't believe that's in there. That's gonna be really fun to play with. But yeah, I think that's why. I think the lack of noticeable environmental upgrades when it comes to textures and things that are littered throughout the world, I think that's why a lot of people think it's just DLC. And I think that's one thing that we can all agree on, is that yes, in some ways it does look the same as Breath of the Wild, which, I mean, that does make a lot of sense since it takes place in the same area, right? Now again, we haven't seen other areas as well, so maybe this is just a bad example of what Tears of the Kingdom can look like when it has different things going on with the environment in different areas, and maybe other areas are spruced up. The thing is, we don't know. We haven't seen a lot of this game. But aside from that, I'm not really sure what the just DLC crowd was expecting. If they made a whole new area, but with the same gameplay and gameplay mechanics and character models and so on, would they not consider it just DLC? Or would they just still consider it DLC? Like, what kind of gameplay were they expecting from a Zelda game? Especially since it's a sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you're of course going to expect some similarities when it comes to gameplay, right? I mean, is Persona 4 not a sequel because it has similar gameplay to Persona 3 despite being a new place, new character models, and so on? I mean, the only difference between all of these sequels that people consider them a sequel is pretty much that it's not in a new place. Other than that, it checks all the boxes of a sequel just on the little gameplay we saw. Now, in the last video, you guys did comment some interesting things in the comment section that add to this conversation, and I want to read those off and give my thoughts on that as well. So right off the bat, this person makes a very important point. If people think this is DLC, then what about fighting games? Can we just call the last 5 Mortal Kombat's DLC of each other? Or what about Smash Bros? Most of the characters still have the same movements, but with more characters. Not exactly, but you get the point. So yeah, this makes a lot of sense as well. Like, what about Smash Bros? Super Smash Bros also has a lot of these sameness, but they did have additions in the game as well. Is that not a sequel? Are these not sequels? Now another one brings up past Zelda games. Do people forget that Majora's Mask is a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time, and they look similar and even have a lot of the same character models from both games? Now, I know you guys in the comment section, don't be going saying that this game is DLC. No, I'm sorry, but people consider this a sequel. They consider it definitely a whole new game, and yet I've never heard anyone say that, hey, Ocarina of Time is DLC. No one's ever said that, so I don't know, I find it really weird that a lot of people are saying that Tears of the Kingdom is DLC. Like, what is bringing this up? Is this a factor of the fact that we have the internet now? It's more widely spread, it's more easily accessible, and these voices are just louder. Maybe they did exist back then, but they never had a platform to expand their voice and make it heard. Took 2 years between Zelda Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. If Tears of the Kingdom's nothing more than just Breath of the Wild DLC, then why did it take 6 years to make? And this is another good point. I mean, it has been in development for quite some time, and it's just weird that people consider this just DLC, and other people consider it, well, not DLC in a sequel. I really am curious on what makes this look like just DLC, aside from the visual aesthetics. Like, aside from that, what makes it just DLC? I know some people do have a problem with the gameplay. I know some people don't like the system. Some people are hoping that things wouldn't break. So I think that's one thing that maybe is affecting this conversation. Maybe people are just disappointed with what they saw and maybe it's not for them. And if that's the case, well, that doesn't mean it's just DLC. That just means that it's not for you, I guess. Unless you try it and you end up enjoying it. That might happen too, maybe if you give it a chance. you might enjoy it. And again, I want to state this again, I've said this a lot of times in this video, but we haven't seen a lot from this game. Yes, we've had 10 minutes of gameplay and a couple trailers, but I'm sure there are plenty of things that we have yet to see. Like, one thing that you have to keep in mind is that we haven't seen a lot of the time reversal mechanics, and I'm sure there's going to be fast forward as well, and other abilities that we just don't know about. But overall, I guess we'll see when the game comes out and how different it is and how it compares to Breath of the Wild. We're pretty close to the release date. I mean, we have 1 month, a little bit over 1 month. It's about 1 month and like maybe 4 or 5 days, but we're pretty close to the release date for Tears of the Kingdom, and I will be playing it day one. I'm definitely going to buy it, even if I have to sell, I don't know, I could probably sell Splatoon 3, I guess. That'll give me like $30 from GameStop. But yeah, we're gonna play it on launch and see if it's just DLC or what's gonna happen. Maybe we'll even like play it all night long, like pull a whole all-nighter. Maybe I'll buy some pop and we'll just like literally try to play as much as possible, and then, you know, go to sleep, and then I'll make my thoughts the next day. But what do you guys think about this conversation? Do you think it's just DLC? Why do you think it's just DLC? Definitely for that crowd, I want to understand why you guys think it's just DLC. List the reasons in a whole list below on why it looks just like DLC, and then when we come back to Tears of the Kingdom, when we finally get our hands on it, then we can look at those lists and say, oh yeah, they did have a point here, here, maybe not on this point, and so on. And of course, for the people who agree with me, make sure you guys tell me why you agree with me, or maybe points that I didn't cover in this video. Drop them down in the comment section below. It really does help the video get pushed when you do that. And overall, let's talk about Tears of the Kingdom. I think at the end of the day, we're all talking about a game that we're excited for, or maybe you're not excited for. I'm excited for it. But overall, yeah, tell me your thoughts about this in the comment section below, and this is going on for too long. I'll see you guys in the next video. And if not, on your way out, make sure you subscribe for more videos and also have that notification bell on. And if you want to support the channel in any other way, there is my Patreon and Twitter account in the pinned comment if you're interested in those. Oh, and also have this donut if you're still sticking around for me rambling. Thanks for watching, guys, and remember, stay safe, stay charged, and have a good one.